Next, we'll pivot to a story that's a bit more local in nature. However, I promise wherever you live will be very relevant. Residents of the city of Albany within the past few weeks received notification of new assessments. And for some property owners, they say values went up hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, values doubled. Obviously, folks are very riled up. I'm here to tell you it's okay. Let's take a look at what's happening, and then we'll dive into why the initial response is a bit of an overreaction. The assessor for your municipality is an elected official. This person in their office periodically, and in the city of Albany, I believe it's done every 8 years. This last round was delayed a few years due to the pandemic, but realistically it should be done every 8 years. And they determine what they believe the market value for all properties under their authority to be. Each area will have what's known as a level of assessment, essentially what percentage of the market value of your home is used to calculate your home's assessed value. Now, also at City Hall, we have the taxing jurisdiction, whose job it is to put together the city budget. How much money the city plans to spend over the next 12 months to keep everything running. Once this number is determined, all outside sources of income are subtracted. And whatever's left, that's the burden to be paid via property taxes. Let's do an example together. So in a small town, has a 500 million in total assessments. So it's a very small town. It has a $21 million budget with $1 million in outside income. Your house is said to have a market value of $200,000, and the city uses a 50% level of assessment. What is your obligation? So the first thing to solve for is, what is the assessed value of our home? And to find that, we're going to take the market value and we're going to multiply that against the level of assessment. So what is my property worth minus what's the percentage that it's calculated against, which is going to be $200,000 times 50% gives us an assessed value of $100,000. The next item we're going to solve for is, what is the aggregate obligation? And aggregate obligation being, what is the total taxpayer on the hook for? So we're going to take the budget, we're going to subtract out any outside income, and that what's left is known as the levy. So we have a $21 million budget, $1 million of outside income, leaves us with a levy, a remaining burden of $20 million. Okay. Next up, we need to solve for the assessment rate, also known as the mill rate. And that is the levy, which we just solved for, divided by the total assessment. So that is a $20 million levy divided by a $500 million total assessment gives us 0.04. Okay. Keep that in mind because we're going to use that next. Here comes the big one. Personal obligation. What am I in the hook for? Well, we're going to take the mill rate that we just solved for, and we are going to multiply that by the assessed value of our home. So 0.04 times the $100,000 we solved for earlier means we are on the hook for a yearly tax burden of $4,000. So that's how we calculate our tax burden. Now let's examine what parts here are most important when it comes to a rising assessment notice. And this is what got everyone all riled up. We know that the entire city is being reassessed. So while my personal assessment may go up 50%, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It's gone up 50%. That doesn't mean my tax burden is going up 50%. Everyone is in the same boat. Everyone's tax assessment is going up. All of the property values have gone up. Everyone's assessment's going up. What we do care about is how much our assessment went up compared to the median, right in the middle. You may have found yourself in a situation where you own property in an area of town that suddenly became especially hot, in demand. It's being gentrified. All the rich people are moving in. In that case, your property may have appreciated at a faster rate than the entire city as a whole. In that case, you can expect some change to your property, you will see some change to the tax burden in terms of paying more taxes because your property appreciated at a faster rate than the overall average. You would be paying a higher tax rate. What that also means, though, is that if you live in an area that maybe didn't appreciate as fast, maybe it's slightly less desirable to live where you live now versus 10 years ago. Even though your assessment went up 50%, 75%, whatever that number may be, you may be paying less in taxes because, again, your appreciation was less than the median. What are the components that are important here? It's not how much your assessment went up. It's you versus the whole area, but also how much is your municipality spending? What is the budget? How much is the budget growing? Because the amount that the city spends, that's what determines what the homeowners are forced to pay. So we're focused on how much does the budget go up every year and how does my property compare to the overall median landscape of what the real estate market in my city looks like. So while we see the headlines, people are all upset about assessments doubling or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It doesn't matter. Keep in mind what does matter. What's the city budget? How much is that going up? And how does my property compare to the overall spectrum of the city? That's what you want to focus on.